There it is.
Hey, we're live.
There we
All
are.
right. Sweet.
What
We
is
are
going
live,
on,
folks.
everybody?
What if you hit start stream and then end stream immediately? Like
I know, right? That's why
There's a stream.
I did
2
it.
seconds.
I did it one time, one night. I was like, all right, guys, I'm going to sleep early. I was like so tired. And
just immediately done.
It was. And then we had to restart the whole stream, and
they had to
we
make
went on for another 3 hours or something.
That's so funny.
That was funny.
Yeah. So tonight we have Ben Nowak on from.
Yes.
Let's see. I linked all of your channels, your podcast, and social media links in the description. So if you guys want to go check them out down there.
Thank you.
So you are the smallmouth aficionado. You also do bait making, and you are, known for your northern smallmouth fishing.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, I love like fishing up north. So for a while, I kind of got the opportunity to travel all over and fish different types of, lakes and bodies of water across the country. But like everything in me just comes back to northern smallmouth. Like I started fishing largemouth, and I just love the smallmouth game, and like I love the big water. And recently, I really like exploring these small bodies of water, smaller lakes for big smallmouth, which we're blessed with up here in Michigan, right? A bunch of small lakes with big fish. So, yeah, I love the northern smallmouth game. So, thank you, man. Thanks for the introduction.
Yes.
Yeah. I would love to get up there and catch some.
You guys got to come for real. It's amazing up here.
I'm not that far. Brendan's deep.
Yeah, Brendan's away.
And Brendan, you're gonna need 6 jackets. I'm gonna tell you.
You can just shoot straight over through Canada.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would not like to go.
Actually, I might be able
to go one time.
That's crazy. I'm gonna Google that later. I might be able to. I go.
Was it like an 8-hour drive or something?
Yeah, I would probably say about that, if not a little bit more.
Yeah, probably like 12 to 14. It's 14 for me to get to Lake Champlain.
So it's probably because I think that's northern. I don't know.
Yeah, very northern New York.
Yeah.
Right by Vermont.
Here we go. Direction, starting point, home.
We got all the people in here. We got
the gang.
Yeah, tons of people.
Yeah, 12 and a half hours. And that's like I guess
that's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not horrible.
Traverse City.
Oh yeah, Traverse City. So that's like
right to Cadillac.
Northern Michigan.
Cadillac. Yeah, that's to Cadillac.
It'll be like 10 hours to my house.
Oh Jesus! Are you in northern or are you in southern?
I'm like right in the middle of the state, so about an hour and a half from Cadillac.
Okay, all right, nice. Not bad.
Yeah.
A little roll call here, right? We got Scott.
Yeah, we got.
There's a bunch of people in here. This is awesome.
Little Tommy. Little Tommy's like my fishing buddy now. Y'all don't know.
I just hope we don't get Rudd in here, just like cracking jokes and stuff.
Right?
Oh yeah. leave it to Rudd to get in here and just
mess it up.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my goodness.
No, you guys have been both catching really big fish lately.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know Jermaine's been on the smallmouth, and I'm sure he has questions for you about that.
Yeah, I do. I was gonna try to be professional with you, Ben, and I got real busy at work, so I didn't get time to write down questions and all that stuff.
Oh, you're totally fine, dude. We can keep it as loose as we want.
Yeah.
And, we can just kind of dive into a bunch of different topics, but we'll keep it open.
Awesome.
And if anyone has any questions over in the comments, feel free to kind of drop questions or things you want to know. Totally. So a lot of like what I do is northern smallmouth and northern largemouth. So like grass fisheries for the largemouth, and then smallmouth is like glacial lakes or Great Lakes or some rivers and streams, but not quite as much as maybe some of the other people on YouTube. But yeah, feel free to drop us some questions. We'll answer anything you guys might have.
Army. Yes, sir.
We'll make sure to hit all of them, as many as we can. For sure. So, hey, what's up, Kuda? Got a loose.
Bass from Big Malone. Got the gang. So, usually fills up a little bit.
So what makes smallmouth so appealing to you, like over like all the other fish? Is it like the fighting that they have, like how much stronger they are?
So funny. I'm gonna butt in real quick. It's so funny to have you ask these questions because you just never call.
No,
it's that's a genuine question, and I like
I have no clue.
My head is like, why? And then I was like, oh, he's never calling.
All right.
For me, it's the fight, and also just the way these fish move around pieces of cover and structure, right? So, one, especially during the spring and the fall, they're a lot more aggressive than largemouth. Like largemouth, you have to coax them into biting. So, like you can catch them on a crankbait, don't get me wrong, and you can catch them on a swim bait, largemouth. I'm talking right now, but for me, it's like smallmouth are super aggressive. Like they're visual feeders, so you can throw baits over their head and they'll come up and get it. And for me, that's kind of my style of fishing is like power fishing,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of people think smallmouth are synonymous with drop shots and Ned rigs and tubes and slow dragging. But like the way I like to fish is fast, even with a drop shot. Like flip it in. I'm target fishing with a drop shot. So like flip it in, set it there for a little bit, pull it out, make another flip to somewhere else, like target fishing with it. So I love that aspect of it. I've also grown to enjoy the clear water. For a long time, clear water intimidated me, especially clear deep water. Really, really intimidated me. So I'd always fish like moderate depth, kind of find like off-color water where smallmouth would live. I love clean water now. And a lot of that, too, I think has to do with having forward-facing sonar.
Mm-hmm.
I've started to understand some of these fish and how they move around this stuff. And so, like, now I understand in cleaner water, I can adjust my presentation and actually get fish to bite more effectively than in that stained or dirty water. So that's kind of the biggest thing. It's just it fits my style a lot more. And again, like even when I largemouth fish, I'm a power fisherman, which it doesn't necessarily always or as often lend itself to power fishing as much as smallmouth. So kind of a long way to say I just like the way that they set up and they fight.
Yeah, that's great. So what would you say is like, with that being said, that's a good segue. What's like your favorite method to catch them?
If I can catch them on a crankbait, I love catching them on a crankbait.
Okay.
I really,
What
really
crankbait do you
love
like?
crankbait. There's a Japanese crankbait. It's not a secret anymore. It's an OSP Blitz, and it's
The Max DR?
EXDR. So it's
Okay.
it's like I think it's like a 2 3/4 inch crankbait. It's a small body bait, but it casts like really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Another bait I really like is the Duo Realis MR12 or MR8, which is like a 12-foot or an 8-foot diving.
Okay.
It's just a different action. It's like a really like pointed bill on it, and so it kind of has like a really erratic movement in the water as opposed to a lot of like really true running crankbaits. But
Mm-hmm.
I love catching them cranking. Like if I can catch them cranking, that's the way I'm gonna try to catch them.
And then another thing, how did you feel about the money badger?
I wish I got to like get on a really good money badger bite. I ended up losing a lot of money badgers because I fish it like really, really heavy rock.
Mm-hmm.
I just never really got on it that great. For me, like last fall, I just wasn't getting out enough to get on a crankbait bite the way I needed to.
Mm-hmm. How do you cast the money badger? Because that's my problem with it. It's like it. I don't know if I think I got the 8 to 10. And stuff like a
They
third.
have those like so they have like the 5, the 7, or the 5, like a 6.25. Like I need like the 6.5 or bigger to like get any real legitimate casting distance.
Yeah, I think that's where I messed up.
It casts okay, but like if you go smaller than that, I think you need to throw it on like a spinning rod.
Yeah, I think
It
that's
just gets
where
like I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like the weight balance, the way that it's in that bait, just doesn't cast near as well as some other baits.
Yep.
So like I like to fish with moderate, like either a bigger body bait or a bait that has a weight transfer or like a really good casting system. Especially with smallmouth, dude. Like you need to get that bait as far away from you as you can get it. Right, like give yourself the best opportunity. And a lot of times, if I'm fishing those lighter crankbaits, you just can't do it. So like I really like. Well, this isn't a crankbait as much as a jerkbait, but like the Rapala Shadow Wrap Deep is a phenomenal jerkbait, but it casts like a potato chip. So like if I can't get the bait away from me, like I really struggle to enjoy fishing it.
And that's my problem with the money badger. Is I'm like, dang, I want to bomb it. I want to bomb it. And then I'm like,
And you go to bomb it and you blow your reel up, and then you like spend 5 minutes picking out the
Yep.
backlash, and then
It's
it
me.
makes it so unenjoyable. You got to cut the
Yep.
thing off, and you're like, I'm done. Like I'll put
That's
a
it.
DT on before I throw this thing again.
Yep, that's where I
Yep.
was at. That's exactly right. And then speaking of such,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd throw the side on or something like that. But yeah, I was like a little disappointed with it, and maybe it was just the size I got again because I thought I got one size down from Rudd.
Yeah.
Because I think he got the because I did it. It's by foot too, so like the size I got is an 8 to 10, I think, and I think Rudd got the 9 to 11.
Yeah.
And
So it's
the ones
weird.
I fish, I was like, that's a little deep, 9 to 11. I'm not going to be getting it down that deep. Probably should have went with that because of the.
And it's weird too, like with that bait, I think like 3 or 4 sizes in a row are all like 9 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
So like it'll be like 6, 6.25, 6.5, 6, 7, 5, 7, and they're all like 9 to 11. And then like if you go down just a little bit to like 5 and 5.25 or whatever, you get shallower diving. But the problem is with that big, like it's a great rock crankbait, but if you're not like up here, like our bottoms are covered in algae, or like we fish around grass, so like that big nose on it catches a lot of that.
Yeah.
Even if you're fishing it up in the column, like you're gonna get it around grass, and it's gonna get grassy. Where Rudd lives, like you see him fish grass, but when he's cranking, like on Douglas and Cherokee and all those lakes that he cranks, it's straight rock, dude. So like that's another consideration, right? Like that is a rock crankbait. Like a rock crawler is a rock crankbait. Like it doesn't come through grass effectively. But
I have no rock around
Right,
here. It's all
so
wood.
tonight's
It's
giveaway.
like wood.
My money.
Do you ever mess with like balsa crankbaits, especially like custom like balsa crankbaits?
Dude, I want to. So I
I'm
just
so
don't want
I'm
to
so
lose
into
them.
that right now.
Really?
It is
You're
so
into like
much
balsa
fun.
everything though. Like you're like really into the custom handmade art side of
Yeah.
it. I'm like, nah. I'm like, I don't
If you lose
really
it,
care.
you don't want to cry or something.
Yeah, I don't want to cry at all. Like I cry
Yeah.
over a $12 crankbait.
Yeah. I think the cool
What's
thing
your
about
favorite?
balsa is like I like the Moabs, but the rat brains are like legit.
Okay.
Those are really good. But I mean, I like those both, but the Moab is not necessarily a crank. I mean, you can fish it like a crankbait, but that's not the way I fish. I fish it more like a topwater. It's a really sweet like bait. But yeah, I like those balsa crankbaits because the handmade ones, because they're different. Each one's different. So you
That's what I was gonna
actually
say.
get a hunt, you actually get them to hunt like out of the package most of the time. And
And
you
they have
don't
a
have to do a
different,
ton of tweaking.
like the thing with balsas that I've heard, and I have limited experience, so this is all what I've heard, but they all have like their own action, like you said, and like a life of their own. So you get ones that are really, really good, and maybe kind of a negative is some aren't quite as great, but the ones that you get are really good. Like you can keep it forever.
They're the deal.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll outfish anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially the ones that are like hand carved, like the ones that are done on a CNC machine, or the ones like Rapala's CNC machine. Those ones are good, but they don't have that inconsistency that actually hand carved ones have.
Yeah.
Which is the deal, Yeah.
That's
and the
so
wood is going to have
interesting.
inconsistencies too. So like the wood is not, it might be a little lighter on one side, so it's actually going to, do a little bit of a different motion in the water.
Yeah.
So you might not be able to reel it as fast, but at that right speed, it's going to hunt nice, and it's going to have a really good action over cover too. Because sometimes you get completely different actions. Like when it hits cover, it might bounce off, or it might deflect off to the one side. So they're so much fun to use.
I'm curious, how many pros do you think use balsa weights? Like, I think there's a lot more of it happening than we hear about. And I think that's why Cliff Pace came out with that Black Label brand, because like, I think he saw a need where these pros want like semi-readily available balsas, but also like, I think a lot of pros throw balsa more than we even know.
Oh, I bet. One of them a long time ago got in trouble because it's a pretty funny story, but like there was like a shot that BASS was taking of all of his rods, and there's a balsa crankbait on there, and one of the companies called him afterwards and was like, "You're fired because that bait is on your deck," but they don't make a crankbait. So I was like,
"Oh, that's weird."
That was really weird. But I mean, I'm sure like a lot of people like Ottifo like throw those kind of crankbaits, or like people from like the there you go. I'm sure some of those guys are throwing those balsa crankbaits and not telling other people,
For sure. Well, Ott comes from the world of balsas, right? Like that's where like the OG like garage crankbaits are from, is that middle Kentucky area, eastern Kentucky. So that's super
I just got one of those actually this season. I like it a lot. I didn't catch anything on it, but
which one?
I have some WECs.
Oh yeah, I've got some of those too.
Oh, the OG
the old
Rapalas.
the red one.
Yeah, I got one of the OG Rapalas. I got it in red.
That's sweet.
The red, it's like the red with the green on top. It's kind of like the Milliken Crow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Talk about 6th Sense, man. They've like taken over the market. Like, we'll just say it. Their marketing is probably some of the best in the game right now. Up there with like,
it is.
Hate to say it, but like Guggen Squad really blew up because of marketing, and now 6th Sense like has some of probably the best marketing in the game.
Definitely, and they've got some good pros on there too.
Yeah.
I mean,
and at the end of the day, I would say, like, I think, like what in the.
You're back to a good product, right? You have to have good product to sell, right? So, like, that's what it all comes down to. But then you market it well, and you have good product, and you have good names behind you. Like, they do good things. So,
and like that's kind of like the thing with the Guggen Squad. Like, everyone can say what they want, but like, even if you don't like it, it's not trash. Like,
right.
Sorry, it's just not. Like, there's not. You can't do that. I sell cars, Ben, and I'm talking to a customer, and I always drop it in. I'm like, yeah, I fish. What I like to do when I'm not here is I'm fishing. And he's like, oh, this customer, first thing he says, oh, are you really into it? If I had enough money and I was fishing, I would go buy a bunch of Guggen Squad stuff. They make the best stuff, right? And I was just like, yeah.
Like, at that point, you're like, oh, I don't know how honest I want to be here.
I was just like, yeah, like glitched for a second. I was just like, yeah, they make good stuff, but like, they do. You can't really I don't think. Obviously, there's going to be a few baits, and this is I think this is every line. Like, I can call out a 6th Sense bait that I don't like.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what company you look at. Like, people can pick it apart and say, okay, well, this bait isn't good, or this bait doesn't do what I need it to do. But what it boils down to is like, I'm developing a bait with Excite, right? There's going to be people that are like saying whatever they want to say about it. People that might absolutely love it, and I believe it's going to be one of the best, most versatile smallmouth baits ever. But like, there's going to be guys who are like, "Oh, this thing doesn't catch fish. Like a maxed out flatworm is going to catch them." Like, they're going to say what they want to say, but like, what it boils down to is 6th Sense overall has a great grouping of products.
That's it,
and they do a great job marketing.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think Guggen Squad has kind of fallen off, though. I mean, to be honest, like all their stuff is going on sale everywhere, and you don't see like. It's just kind of like falling off, I feel.
Well, a lot of it came down to that.
They plateaued, though.
Came down to Guggen family. Like, everyone wanted to be the Guggens, right? But like that Guggen group doesn't really have the same power ever, like it did at one point. They have new guys, and you have Lojo.
And they were young too. Like, they were coming up together. Like, John B. has a kid now, right? He's just straight dad mode. Like, he just can't. Like, I know he still does it, but. It's not the same, it's just not the same. Like, you grow up, like, you're not just with like those like high school days or college days. You're just like, you guys are like, Brendan, you're doing it now, but then you remember, you're like with your boys all day. I spent 8 hours.
They live together.
Yeah. I didn't even live with them, and I would chill with my boys for 8-9 hours a day. Like, that's what you did. But
and it comes down to the kind of content they were making, right? Like, they were attracting a younger audience, or like a newer, more inexperienced audience. Well, what happens to that audience, right? They now turn into us, or turn into guys that are more serious anglers who want to learn and grow and become better fishermen and like get different, maybe more specialized baits, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Guggen has some of it, but like, you have to start looking outside of the brand to find some of that.
Yeah.
They're realizing they were paying a little bit because, Rob Turkla and John and whoever was talking about the product. So, yeah,
it's interesting.
I'm really curious, guys. Over in the comments, I'm really curious about some of your favorite baits. Right, like we talk about, balsas or the OSPs, or like what kind of baits do you guys throw? What brands? Like, what's your favorite, model bait, whether we're talking hard bait or soft bait. I'm just really curious on
Brendan, what's your favorite brand? Like your favorite mainstream
you had
brand?
to
No pun
name a
intended.
brand. Like,
Ooh, that's hard. I mean, I really like 316, just because of the fact that he just makes some of the best dang baits there is. I mean, that's my thought. And he carries majority of his baits are big baits, and that's made
Yeah.
basically almost all that I throw. So I mean, Jackal has a lot of really good products too. But I would say 316 because if you said you can have any products from 316, I'd just be like, yeah, I'm fine with that. He carries everything that I would throw.
Yeah.
yeah,
Depths has a lot of good ones too, but yeah, there's a lot of brands out there that have good selection of baits.
I've been coming around to Missile lately. They're not as big of a selection, but
to who?
Missile baits.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they have some certified fish catchers. That magic worm has been nothing less than magic for me this
I've
year.
not fished that yet.
Do yourself a favor. Smallmouth, non-fierce.
I like a 6-inch robo-worm, like an OG
Yeah.
robo-worm fat 6-inch for drop shotting largemouth is a great bait.
Yeah, I got them right over there. They colors are great colors.
Oh yeah.
Lately, I've been going
that's
for
a good call,
Dream, and they just kill it. It's nice.
I really like Duo for hard baits. I really like Duo Realis. Like,
I hear you talk about them a lot.
Just the body profiles, like the design, kind of like the artistry of Duo hard baits. I really like. They have some cool soft baits, but there's just not a very big lineup.
Yeah,
soft baits. I'm all over the map. Like, dude, I have just so much from different brands and different.
Yeah, soft bait. Soft is hard. It's hard. So. Like I got I can't even. Like I got a bunch of 6 cent stuff.
Yeah.
Jermaine's big.
10,000 fishing is kind of underrated. I'm gonna throw that out there. 10,000 fishing. I think they're a little underrated.
Oh, I've not fished any of their stuff.
No,
they have the Koshi bug.
Yeah, that's the Koshi bug. Hold on,
I've heard a lot about it.
I think I see a Yoda one right here. This thing.
Sorry, my allergies are going nuts today. I apologize.
Oh man, no problem.
This thing is amazing. Like you can chatter rate trailer. I mean,
well, Missile now partnered up with Hog Farmer
and Rover
to make the skunk shad, which is honestly like when I saw that bait, I was like, that is like very similar to a spunk shad.
Yeah, I love this thing.
And that's made of that Elastec sort of technology, right?
Like it won't stop. I'm gonna hold it still. The fan's on, but it's insane, and it's pretty durable.
Here's something that kind of drives me nuts. I'm not talking about anyone in specific or anyone at all, but when people held up a bait and say, "Look at how much action it has," well, there's not water resistance. There's drag being added to that bait in the water. So it kind of like changes everything, but that's just
that is true.
Me putting that.
Right about that.
I got you.
But that's just
thanks, Brendan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Jermaine's like, dang, dude. Like,
last week, sorry, Ben. I'm over here trying to work for 6 cents sponsorship. Brendan last week, he's like, everything they make is trash.
No, it's not. No.
That's why I'm not sponsored. I got to cut this kid.
Jermaine's like, I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah.
I'm done with you. We're splitting the show.
Done. It's over.
Every 5 cents we make off the show, splitting it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think there's a really weird, I don't want to call it epidemic, but like a really weird thing going on in the industry right now where everything that people come out with, people will find a bait that's similar and be like, yeah, that's a knockoff. So-and-so did this or so-and-so did that. Okay, so I'm going to throw one. And I don't work with pure fishing anymore. Okay, so like this is not I'm a Berkeley guy, so I got to say this. But like you look at the cull shad and you look at a mag draft. If you actually look at the baits, they're not at all the same, right? Like you actually look at the body profile, the tail shape, the internal components, they're not the same bait, but it's a mag draft knockoff from everyone. Okay, so now you start to look at the the new glide bait they have. Don't know what it's called. Messy.
Oh my goodness.
People are
I
like,
went on a
okay,
30-minute rant on this.
this is whoever Grow Designs flag or whatever. When you start to look at the bait and you actually look at the profile of the bait and the componentry of the bait, it's similar to a flag, and I have no doubt they probably drew inspiration from it, right? But it's a newer bait category. There's different components. You look at Megabass, okay? Now Megabass also has a soft body glide bait like that. Okay, I don't know if it came out before or after the flag, but no one wants to talk about these other companies in the industry doing the exact same thing unless you start to look at the big brands, right?
Yeah.
In like Rapala, okay, whatever that freeloader is that Jacob Wheeler's talking about, it is a spark shad, right? It's so or spunk shad, like it's so similar, but there's differences. Like I understand, but also to an extent, people have to understand too. Like there's modifications and things like Jacob said, okay, this bait has to be designed this way. It has a different action than the spunk shad for me, or maybe it doesn't, right? But like we're in an industry where there's only so many ideas. And do I value creativity? I absolutely do. But also like you have to look at it objectively and say like not everything is a direct knockoff.
Exactly. Yes.
It's
So
just
one of
such
my
a weird
biggest
thing
things
that's
about
happening.
that is like if you change something as simple as the water displacement on a bait, it's different because it's going to sound different to the
Yes.
fish. And like this is where anglers get caught, and I'll be the first to say it. That's why I love Sixth Sense because it looks so damn good. But
Yes.
when you look at something and it looks exactly the same, it's like a power blade, the power blade stinger or whatever it is. It's a Zacco, right?
Yeah.
But is it because of the honeycomb tail? No,
It's
that's a different water displacement. So it's like, that bait coming through the water is going to sound different than a Zacco, because of the water displacement. So that's going to sound different to the fish, where it's like sometimes you got to like, I just feel like every bait's going to have its place, you know what I mean? And a
it
certain
will.
time and like, and just like, it's like, like same thing with the chatterbaits and all the different bladed jigs and all that stuff.
And like I have okay, so let's take it into the car industry. You're a car salesman, right? So I have a new Tundra, 22 Tundra.
Nice.
Well, you start to look at the body shape of that bait or that car, and like they take inspiration from like Chevy. Like you can see certain things that Chevy has on the Tundra. And you're like, okay, that comes from Chevy, or like, oh yeah, that shape comes from Ford, or oh yeah, this comes from here. And like you look at any other industry, and like it all kind of comes from different like certain places because we're constantly growing and finding new things. The bait that I'm designing is somewhat unique, right? I have some out in the other room, but like it's somewhat unique. It's a drop shot style bait that looks similar, or it's not like a knockoff, but it has components of certain other baits. And like it just makes sense.
But that's how you got the idea though. Because you were like, oh, I wish this bait did this.
Yeah, I wish this bait had just a little more tail shimmy than this other bait. Or like Sixth Sense, for example. I don't even care if they go to China and they're like, knock me off a 2.5 crankbait, right? And they're like, okay, but I also want this to have a different size rattle because I want a different sound in this bait. And I want, instead of the rattle chamber to be cut straight, I want it to be cut with an ankle. Right? Like you start to look at the internals or the different things. It's just such a super interesting.
Yeah, I would never even thought about that.
It's just such an interesting world. Like there's so many intricacies that go into all these baits. And maybe this is a rant that didn't need to be had, but also like it's just super interesting to me the current state of the fishing world, where like we're all trying to grow and build cool product, and it's all got to come from somewhere, right? Like
I think that's
someone had to be the original
spot too, though.
Yeah,
because everyone's like trying. That's when you lose your love. Is like love for anything. When you stop trying, it's gone, or it's gonna dull out. Like everyone's like. The fishing industry is at a try hard spot right now. So it's like, that's good for us. That's good.
Yeah, because we constantly have to grow. Like we constantly have to move. Like you're seeing it happen with all these companies. They're all moving into all these different areas they never were. Right. So Rabble was never in soft plastics, or not in recent history wasn't in soft plastics. Like you're seeing these companies move in these directions, and it's only going to lead us to better places.
Yeah.
With scent technology.
Imagine being your dad and then just coming out with new colors.
Yeah. Yeah. Color selection or color creation is so hard in itself, right?
Can you imagine that? Like 20, 30 years ago when they only had green pumpkin and black, and then they started to do browns and reds, and then we were like, oh, well, we're just coming out with a new color every year. And the same date, they didn't change anything. You just say, oh, here's a new color. So it's like,
Great question.
Thankful.
Came through the chat. When is it copy and copy, and when is it legit? Right?
I think I started that one. Let's see.
I think for me, the big thing is like only the person that's actually creating the bait will really know when it's a direct copy. But I think as consumers, we can also start to look at a bait and be like, okay, like when you see, I don't know. I think really only the creator can make that, real determination or know in themselves if it's a direct copy. But even so, like you have some companies that are like, I'm just going to make this as close to the original as possible because I want it to be. Mm-hmm. Let's take a stickworm, for example. Like the best shape for a stickworm is like the Gary Yamamoto stickworm. Mm-hmm. Everyone has one.
Do It Mold sells it now.
Yeah, Do It Molds literally sells the specific Gary Yamamoto Senko. Mm-hmm. Because like, yeah.
Just why not? Like, and then I think somebody was saying like, with that, like you don't know their you don't know their build, like you don't know their plastic to saw, like you're not going to be able to make that exact plastic.
I can figure it out.
I mean, trust me. I mean, over time, but
yeah.
And even then, I don't think that your consistency will not
never
be
exactly.
Because they have it down to. It's a written formula for them. They know X amount of this, X amount of X amount of. Like you might get it one time and be like, "Oh, what did I do?"
Yeah, that's right. Right. So the way bait making works, right? Like if you're gonna if you want baits made, okay, so there's like a handful of shops in China. If you're not going to have a company like physically cut you a mold and make you a specific bait, you can go to them and they have house brands. They have products off the shelf. You can be like, okay, I want a 2.5, and they'll come to you and they'll give you 5 versions of a 2.5 inch crankbait, right? And you can say, okay, I want this one. Well, like then it's a direct copy. It's just a stock house brand. Like
yeah.
I'm not going to throw out names, but there's a company that I used to work with that would just go out and okay, I want a top water bait, and they come out 5 and they'd be like, okay, give me that one. It looks cool. Well, it's a direct knockoff copy. Like that is a copy.
Yeah.
Because there's no innovation. You're taking the house brand that was directly copied off of XYZ brand, right? And this just happens in the industry. It will.
Yeah.
And you'll see it happen, especially from, I would say it's not happening. I will say who it's not happening from. It's not happening from Rapala. Hate to say that. The people that want to say they're directly copying other companies, they're not directly copying. It won't because they're too big. Pure Fishing, it's not happening from. Strike Kingdom will happen from. These really big name brands can no longer get away with direct copies. It just will not.
They're going to make an adjustment.
They have to.
Even if it's minimal, they're going to make an adjustment.
Even if it's minimal, yeah. You're exactly right. Or you can go to Big Bite, Southern Plastics, who makes Big Bite baits. They make baits for, you're right. All these brands, right? You can go to them. They have house brands. So like Frank's Great Outdoors, a tackle store I used to work with, will go to Southern Plastics or one of like their family of plastic pourers. And they'll just go into the bin of bad Big Bite baits and take them and sell them on the floor. Like that's just what it is. So I mean, it does happen, but the big brands don't.
Mm-hmm. And something to add to the Megabass knocking off or Megabass's version of a Grow Design Works flag. They actually, not many people know this, but Megabass and Grow Design Works actually work together on both of their baits. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, so they worked together on their baits before. So actually, Megabass came up with the idea and then helped Grow Design Works or something. Matt, South Jersey fisherman here, knows the story, but they kind of like collaborated, I guess you could say, on their bait. And I love the flag. It's an amazing bait. There's nothing like it on the market. It's incredible.
That's so cool.
It's legit. It's really good. But I mean, also to add to like the Rapala like deal, like their Dolai Beaver knockoff, they switched up some details and they switched up like the little arms on there. I mean, it's like a direct knockoff, and I'm not happy about that. They've never been into soft plastics. But it's it is what it is.
But like, let's
Nothing to
really
do
talk
about
about it, right? Like, what really is a knockoff, right? Like, they can knock
Mhm.
off a doe-live beaver, right?
Mhm.
But like, are you going to buy Rapalo's version over a doe-live beaver, which is specifically formulated with specific salt content, so it has
Mhm.
like a certain fall rate? Like, you're just not going to buy that bait over the Rapala,
Yeah.
which like they can get close and they can come out with a similar shape, close to similar shape. But like, there's things that beaver does that
Mhm.
you can't knock it off and get the same action. People will buy that bait because it looks similar, right?
Oh yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
you can't knock it off and get the same product.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna buy a few packs and test it to see how exact it is, because I just want to know. Like, I bought some coal shads. Like, I was actually on Swimbait Universe. I
Yeah,
was
me
about to
too.
write up I was about to write up an entire, like, I guess you could say, rant or informative post on there about saying, hey, the coal shad and the mag draft are completely different baits. Berkeley is just trying to get on the train of these big baits that are coming out. They're
Yeah.
just trying to, hop on that train and try to make
It'd be
some money
stupid
off of
not
it.
to.
Yeah. And they're too smart not to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you look at the Zell Dangerous swim bait in the mag draft. You can even
I
put
like
something that's very, very close, right? But like,
Yeah.
that Zell Dangerous is a
action.
different bait. It's a different bait.
Got a few right
Like,
there.
it's got a different head shape. It's got a different, body taper that comes down to the tail, which is different than the mag draft. Like, it's close. I'm not going to say it's not close.
And at the end of the day, I feel like it's a good introduction because, like, a guy like myself, I'll go buy a coal shad without a doubt. Like, I got two on coming now.
Yeah.
I'll go get one, and then that'll be like, oh, I caught a bunch of fish on it. Okay, let me go see what that, with the Japanese one is about, the JDM market one is about, because it kind of opens you up to it. So I don't know. I kind of like it, but
Yeah, man, like the Gilly. Okay, Gilly is very close to what I don't know which company,
SE
some
Go
Japanese
Flat.
company.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very. I mean, I don't know how close it is, but it's very close.
Pretty close. Yeah.
And but I promise you, the Gilly will get you in the realm, but cannot do everything that the Japanese version can do.
mm-hmm.
Like, it'll get you started, but it can't do the same things.
Exactly.
And you can buy it for like a third of the price of what the Japanese brand is.
That's
So
very true.
like, for me,
That's the biggest.
it's nice. It gets me in the realm.
Yeah.
Right. But like, if I want to expand on it, or like, I like the way it swims, but like, even a Gilly won't swim straight when it's rigged to supposedly swim straight. It's because it's not made right. Like, it's not made perfect, but it'll get me close enough to get me involved, and then I can start to look outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think the best thing for that bait is skipping it up under trees.
I've only played with it a little bit, but I've heard it's great.
Yeah, I haven't caught anything on it yet. I was kind of waiting for like a little bit, like, when they get on that like shadow bite, I guess you can kind of say, when it's like real hot, like, and they're like sitting up under the shade, dying in the sun, and you skip something under there and they just go at it. But that's what I was kind of waiting for. But that's how kind of I saw Christine Fisher fishing it, and she was fishing on the spawning beds, I think.
Yeah, she caught some big fish on that, I think.
She's a beast.
Oh yeah. Cody, so I have tested the mag draft and the Zell Dangerous one. So here's the thing, this is also in my rant that I was going to post, but people try to think that they're like, oh, now that the coal shed's out, everyone's saying we should start, reeling this bait faster. Like, the issue with the mag draft was that you can't reel it fast. Well, that's not an issue, because the mag draft is meant for that one speed. Like, Takitu, or yeah, I think that's his name, right?
I think that's
A founder of Megabass, I think, but he's designed that bait to be fished at that one speed, and that's where it's meant to be fished. That's where you get the most success, at. And yeah, exactly. It's meant to be fished at that speed, whether you like it or not. That's where it catches the most fish. That's from my tests. I mean, it's one of my favorite all-time baits.
Yeah, you just kind of let it chill.
Yeah,
I just think I think it's weird because I'm a kind of like a pump.
Yeah, I want to fish a bait how I want to fish it. Like, I will
Yeah,
modify baits so I can fish it a certain way. Like,
tell me how to fish my baits.
don't make me fish the bait slow. Like, I can't stand the mag draft. I know it probably catches the snot out of them, but I've just never had like that much success. And it's because like I want to reel it too fast, or if I change the cadence and that thing starts to turn on me, I'm like, screw this stupid thing, put it down. I'm gonna go pick up my regular, Kai tack on a weighted swim bait hook and throw this around.
I was doing this last night. I rigged up a few of these, but I started putting the top hook on these things. So that right there, if you want to reel it around grass, that's what you got to do. Because if you reel it slow around grass, like how it's supposed to be fished, you're just going to get hung up on all that grass. And that's why you got to put the top hook on there. So there's modifications that you should be doing. I guess if you want to fish it how it was meant to be fished, if you want to fish it around grass or something like that, around like wood or something, because it won't roll on you, because the way this bait is made, it's not going to roll over onto the cover like a Huddleston would. So you should be good with that, Oh, here we go from Ralph in here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Some gasoline tonight. Let's talk bed fishing and flogging for fun or tournament fishing.
Okay. I'm good friends with the guy that fishes the Bass Pro Tour.
Okay.
Talked to him tonight. He's up here practicing for a tournament they have in a couple weeks. We're not naming any names here, but there's a lot of stuff that went down at the last tournament on Cayuga. And if anyone watched that tournament, you notice guys either their weights would stay very similar or go up over the 3 or 4 days of the tournament. What would happen is you'd see a guy catch 24 pounds. Well, almost guaranteed they'd catch 24 the next day or 25, 26. Because in Major League Fishing, you can catch the same bedfish day after day after day. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what was happening is like these guys at the bottom of the pack who weren't on that deal, you'd see their weights start to fall. But like the guys up towards the top of the field, like if you saw him catch 24, you'd be like, oh, God, that guy's on a 5 bedfish. You'd see him catch like 24 and then like 23 and a half, or like there's a lot of stuff going on with that I don't necessarily.
Yeah.
Or guys waiting in line. Like you'd see.
Yep.
How much you want to get into it? So
no, you can let it fly here. We're good.
You'd be like, okay, I know where I'm fishing. I'm on a 3-pound bedfish. Well, I'm going to see a guy across the lake, and I know who it is. Well, when his score tracker goes off, and I know he's bed fishing, he's caught a 4.5.
I'm going to beat him there tomorrow.
I'm going to run. Well, not even tomorrow. I'm going to run over there 30 minutes after he's done and catch that same bedfish. Right? Like, if you know where someone's fishing, you're like, okay. Well, this was happening throughout the event. The guys weren't really talking about it. Yeah. You'd start to see, like.
So, you know what I think that is, though? It's gonna create it. They got to stop, and I hate saying it, and like I'm not being that guy. You got to stop fishing the spawn.
You have to move it. Yeah, you have to move the
tournament. You can't have the tournament on the spawn. Like if you catch the tail end of it, like, all right, fine. Like I get that, but like you can't do it. Like they know what they're doing because it's like the NBA. You want to see these guys go score 30, 40 every night. That's what you want to see. So they're going to call fouls and let them shoot a bunch of free throws so they get 40, 50-point games. That's what you want to see when you pay for your ticket. But it's like in the same breath, are they as skilled as the guys, who averaged 19 points a game when you were allowed to play defense? It's just like the same thing. It's like, it's like, yeah, you're doing your thing, but I'm not knocking it because I suck at bed fishing. I literally throw a jig in there. If they bite it, great. If not, I kind of keep it pushing.
But at the same point, like at that level, like all these guys have that skill, right? Like all these guys are fishermen. There was a clip that I saw. I don't know who reposted it, who whatever. I think it was on TikTok, and I'm going to call them out because it's literally a video of him. But Takahiro Omori catches a fish off a bed, ended up being 5.5 pounds. Catches it, shows the fish is hooked in the mouth, puts the fish back in the lake. He then says, I can't catch that fish right now, can I? And the guy goes, well, if you don't see it, you can catch it again. He's like, so I can back off this fish and cast back to where I know that bed is and catch it again as long as I'm not looking at it, right? He's like, well, I don't know if that's how it works. So, like, the rules official, I believe, had to call someone. But, like, the rule was literally so vague that you could catch a fish off a bed. And as long as you're not visually looking at that fish, which
doesn't make sense because of
but like if you're not visually looking at that fish, you can like back off 15 feet so you can't see it and make the same cast to that bed and catch that fish.
Or you could just turn around and just look at them, just be like, all right, I got my waypoint right here. All right.
Yeah, dude, just look at your graph. You look down and you make a flip, you know what I mean? Like
they're not really paying attention. So I mean, I just think that like as much as I love this, and then also the thing about the whole state record. I know you heard about that in New York. The guy caught the same fish last year. It was 8.5. Somebody knew the area because it was
the same guy, dude.
I thought it was a different guy.
Same guy.
It's the same exact guy.
He caught it the next year and just half a pound bigger.
It's the same guy.
Oh my goodness! Okay, my boy told me wrong. My boy told me it was a different guy.
Isn't that amazing, though? I mean,
it's amazing.
It tells you a little bit about these fish, but also, are we just going to catch the same? Is it going to be bigger next year?
So the next year he's just looking for that fish,
right?
And next year he's looking. And then a year after that, he's like, "All right, I hope you just keep going, buddy. I hope you keep growing. I hope you keep growing." And then then 1 year it's just not there. You're like, "Yep, that fish was 16. It's
dead." yeah, dude. I'm not gonna say anything. I don't know who did this at the top of the field. I don't know, but I find it very weird when you see a guy fish in the same area that he was fishing earlier in the day and somehow catches another really key game-changing fish.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, that fish is relatively close in weight to the one that you caught an hour ago. Just very interesting. I don't care about flogging. If you're able to flog fish.
What's flogging?
It's the big, not that kind of flogging, buddy. No, it's the big orange cone.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
That they look through in the water and you can watch.
It's hilarious.
I saw who just did that. Funny. Just posted on
a lot of the pros.
Was it Travis? It's so funny to watch him.
Just watch it. And he goes, "Oh, that's not a rock. That's a giant."
Yeah.
And then he literally, I'm like, "What? I didn't know you could do." And there was a judge right
changes. Next to him. It's insane, man. It changes the way
really
you can. Yeah, it's night and day. My buddy was like, "Okay, that's a bed," and I'm like, "I don't see that. That's not a bed. That's just a change in the bottom." I put the flogger underwater, and I'm like, "Oh no, there's a bed and there's a fish on it."
Wow.
I mean, you still have to be good at knowing where to look or see.
Yeah, but you can't just
Wouldn't you just use your live scope if you have live scope and just scope over there real quick?
Well, you know what? So the fish are they're adapting to live scope. They can tell, right?
They can tell. They can tell for sure. I think some guys might be really, really good with perspective and be able to do it. But in on perspective, it's like a crater in the earth. But no, I'm okay with flogging fish, but I don't really love MLF's ability to catch, weigh, release a fish, especially smallmouth. That Alex and I had a day where there were so many fish on a bed when we were fishing on the Great Lakes. You would just go through this area and you'd catch a fish. Well, we found ourselves coming through the general area later in the day and oh shoot, I'm pretty sure I already caught that fish.
Yeah.
These smallmouth are dumb, especially in the north.
Yeah.
When you're bed fishing, it's not hard 10 minutes later to catch the same exact fish.
Crazy. If you use a flogger here, you're going to get off by an alligator or something.
That I don't agree with. They should definitely they're just gonna have to move it off the spawn.
Yeah.
But once again, like I said, I don't think they're gonna do it because they want the numbers. That's what they want,
Well,
it's nice to see those guys hanging up.
I saw
that picture when my boy sent it to me, and the first thing I said was just profanity. I was are you dumb? I was like, that's crazy.
It's supposedly MLF is having an in-person meeting this week to discuss the issue.
There it is.
And certain anglers are going to be just talking about. I think there's going to be some real words about what's happening in the sport.
And as whack as it is, or however you feel about it, it is good for us.
It's good for the sport.
You got to get it out. You got to get it out. Until you get to this situation, you even think of it as a potential problem. But you started to see cracks last year or 2 years ago when Jacob Wheeler was on the St. Lawrence and would do it multiple times in a day. You're like, oh, that's kind of weird. Then you start seeing it a lot this year. If you guys want to find someone who kind of is hinting at the cracks in MLF is Fred Rumbanis, I believe it is. He's posting on his, maybe it's not Fred, maybe it's one of the other pros. I'll figure out who it is exactly. But one of the pros is man, there are some issues going on, and I'm learning more and more about ways that you can kind of meander around the rules of the sport. So,
man,
It's just very interesting.
I mean, everyone's gonna like. There's got to be a few guys that are always going to skate the gray area, and that's going to happen whenever you put money into any sport.
Well, that's why there are rules made that Jacob Wheeler was part of the reason they were created. Like Jacob Wheeler used to graph all night long, would not fish, not even practice during the day, but would graph all night because these fish will set up on spots a lot better when there's not boats driving all over their head. Right.
Yeah.
So it's very intelligent, but that's why there's rules now that you have to practice sun up to sundown. Like you can't fish. You can't practice all night.
It's insane.
I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. You good now?
No, mainstreaming. Yeah. Jermaine, can't hear you.
Yeah, you're muted or something. Yeah, you're muted. Here, let me fix it.
Oh, yep, there we go. Okay, my bad. I was trying to type. I was hitting buttons.
Here's an interesting one. That was crazy whenever I saw that. Like I was
oh, it's the M button. Okay.
You're kidding.
Like, I
whenever
didn't know this.
He bought Lucky Strike. Yeah. Very interesting. I wonder what's going to happen. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the future holds for that. I don't know.
What are your thoughts about closed fishing seasons?
That's it.
Okay.
I
don't know what that is.
Like,
it technically closes for me.
You can't catch them. Like, you can't catch and put fish in your boat during certain times of year, and you can't host tournaments during certain times of year.
I think that's okay. I think it's good for the fishery. I think it's good for the health of the fish. I think it promotes bigger fish growth. And it just gives the fish a chance to rest. So I think up north we have that I think so. Yeah, I think I can keep fish now. So from what is it? The first week of May to the first week of June, you're not allowed to keep any bass.
That's great.
I think it's amazing. Leave the big ones, let them spawn, let them do their thing, and then it's if you catch a late spawner, all right, you caught a late spawner, but for the most part, the majority of the fish get protected. So
I love it.
I don't think they should tell you that you can't fish. I hate Frank, my boy Frank in here, he's Canadian. I feel so bad for him. I think he bass season just opened up.
Yep.
And I'm Frank, I want to bring him down here, but I feel bad for him. But it's that I don't agree with. No bass, but you got to put him back, or I don't know. I
like catch an immediate release or catch and release.
Yeah.
All year round, right? With no tournaments during your catch and release season, which would be for us, I think it's December through Memorial Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can catch and keep them throughout the rest of the year. I think when you start to look down south, it's not even during the spawn that's such a big issue, which it is sort of an issue, but it's more so during post spawn, especially around Tennessee River areas when the water is so hot that you're seeing these huge fish kills where guys are catching them real deep and they're fresh off spawn. So they're fresh out to the deep water, right? So this happens a lot on Kentucky Lake, Pickwick Lake. When these fish get done spawning and they get out to the ledges, you'll see these huge fish die-offs because guys will catch them out of 25 foot of water, stressed, tired fish, pull them straight up, put them in a live well, run them around all day, and they're dead. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think that's when you should really start to concern yourself down on hot water fisheries. This is really hot months.
Definitely. 100%.
I just feel those are the same guys oh, my fishery's done, blah, 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 blah. Buddy, my thing is this, I'm not a dad yet. Somebody said Happy Father's Day to me too. Happy Father's Day. I appreciate that. I'm not a dad yet. I can't wait, but I can definitely wait. That's where I'm at. But I would like to think, boy or girl, I want to be able to take you to a spot where I caught, just think about that for a second. And that's all you really need to think about is even if you don't plan on being a dad, or a mom, whatever, if you have a brother or a sister or a little cousin or a little niece, whatever, you got somebody young in your life, you don't want to show them what you do, the thing that you love so much that we sit here for 2 hours on a freaking Monday night talking to the strangers about, we got that. That's, I want to share that with all my loved ones if I can. So there's only one way to keep that going is, you know,
Yeah.
do it right.
There's a great
Oh,
comment from Little
chill.
Rich.
Yeah, chill, Rich.
Oh my goodness.
I'm good.
I really love seeing what's happening on like OHIV, right? Obviously,
Oh,
Texas has one of the best, I would say, fish care or fish management in the country, probably. But you start to see what's happening with like Josh Jones. Like he's proving that their fish management really works and catch and release really works because he's consistently catching giant fish over and over and over and over.
Yeah,
and
it's
over
stupid.
again, right? Like it might get a little old to see him catching 10-pounders all the time, but at the same point, it just goes to show like he's catching and releasing this fish, and this fish management is really working on that fish.
Yeah.
That lake is still somehow still healthy, even with all the pressure it's getting. Even though it's now a lot tougher than it was because it got pressure. Still a healthy fishery.
Yeah. That Hunter Smith dude, or whatever, his last name is Smith, but he's guiding trips out there for almost $3,000 a trip. And it's like guaranteed a over 10 or over 12 pounder or something. It's insane. But it's incredible, like how big the fish are out there and how consistent the guys can catch them.
Especially if you're really, really dialed in on those fish. I have heard of guys like trying to go down and catch them, just like showing up random and trying to catch them, and it's not easy. But like
that's what I heard.
The dialed guys are like, okay, I'm going to roll into this area, and you don't realize, like you're fishing the same area, but you don't realize like this one spot is the sweet spot where they sit or feed. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's go back to marketing for a second and talk about 6 Cents. Like, I don't know what bait they're coming out with. I have no idea. But I've seen Joey Walt. I don't know. Don't even know what
it's the line through swim bait. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the line through swim.
That's what I thought it was. But Joey Walton is posting about something on Big Smallmouth. Josh Jones is posting about something. Milliken's been talking about it. Like, this goes back to their marketing. Is like a sneaky bait is coming out. And Milliken has said, like, guys might not know necessarily how to fish it originally. So now, like, your brain starts working on different things. Like, goes back to their marketing is just fantastic.
I'm probably going to drop like 3-4 baits.
Probably.
They're probably going to turn it up. I think they might just step into the big bait game and just turn
more than they are.
Yeah.
Probably.
I want to get that line through that they're coming out with because it looks pretty good. I like the looks of it, So,
but it goes back to marketing, right? Like it might be legit, but it could also be like,
thank you, brother.
Our version of so and so.
Yeah, or whatever it is. Tube fishing for smallies out by the river. Any advice? My big thing is focus on current and focus on current seams and breaks, right? Like, you guys that fish up, Jermaine, you fish up north, and so like you see kind of current through these different bodies of water. Like current is the biggest factor in river smallmouth fishing. Like understanding the breaks and where these fish want to hang out and where they want to feed. And actually a lot of smallmouth will feed in heavier current. A lot of fish will feed in heavier current and then relax in slack current or that slower water. So find those areas where you have mixtures and then look for where they're going to feed versus where they're going to set up.
So there's a good river around me, and this one guy on Fish Brain destroys smallies, and I'm like, yo, what is? I think it's the Passaic. Yeah, there's a river, but it's really not that far, and I need to get over there, but it's just weird because it's like this is the problem, and I wouldn't say it's a problem, but this is just where I live. It's like on a main road. So I'm like on a main road. I have no idea where to park. I park my car in the middle of a downtown area, hop out, grab 2 rods, and then hop a median, and then climb down a cliff. Okay, now I'm fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like a Shake Shack over my head, like, burger spot.
Dude, fishing from the bank is one of the most interestingly hard things to do to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unless you have a consistent spot where you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to go fish from the bank. Like, finding new bank fishing areas, because I tried to do it a little bit. I'm like, I don't even know how to tell someone, like, hey, here's a good bank fishing spot.
It's not fun.
Hopping golf
You
course
have
spots
no
is like
idea
so
how
much
many
fun.
spots I've been to, and everyone's like, "Oh, just Google Earth it. Google Earth it." What does everything look like the same on Google Earth?
Yeah, I know.
It's just
I
trees
know.
hanging over the bank. So I'm like, okay.
Just start
I
picking
show
and
up.
going
There's
through
one
them.
spot to fish. There's literally one hole, and then the summertime, like right now, the worst. It's like I got to fight through like neck high grass and trees.
Yeah. You're like trying not to get bit by ticks, and then you got to get to your spot, and you
Uh,
like show up, and there's weeds everywhere, and you're like
Yeah.
just matted out grass.
Yep.
That's the worst.
You want to know how to bank fish? Go get some good waders.
Oh, probably, yeah. That's a great tip.
Solve all
That's a
your
great
problems.
tip.
I'm telling you, one of the best things that my girl ever bought me, and I was like, "Yo, can you just please get me the NRS boots? Go get them. $100. They'll last. They're like just under your knee. They're not the best on comfort, but that 2 steps you can take off the bank, game changing.
Yeah, dude. Because like you could walk into anything pretty much.
Yep. Like walking
It doesn't
anywhere.
matter how the trees are. Oh,
I don't
that's
care. I can just duck and I just go in and I take 2 steps, 1, 2, and then I can catch straight down that way, and then I can catch straight down that way. It's the best thing ever. 2
wow.
steps.
I never thought of that. My
Yep.
life has just changed.
Yep.
Like the way I look at,
Boots.
yeah.
Because what do? You go to the bank and you're like, I can't get over this tree. Dang, man, that looks like a really good lay down right there, and I can't cast over there. Take 2 steps out.
Oh, my life has changed.
What I did is I bought a paddle board. So you just blow it up right while you're rigging up tack, and you just throw it in there and you go fishing. If you live down south where I am, gators are a problem. But as long as you have a paddle to hit them with, you're good.
Parents.
That's the only thing. So if you're up north and there's not like a bunch of waves, you're all good. Like
Everything's private up
it's
here.
so easy.
Reservoirs and
I mean,
I got a bunch of lakes you can't even put a boat on.
You could put a kayak in or something like that. Small
Nope.
vessel.
Nope.
Really?
Nothing.
Not allowed?
Reservoir. Because people drink that water. You're not allowed to put anything on it.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you fish in it?
So this one spot I got, it's open 6 days a year. I think there's posting that there are snipers on the lake. So it's like Newark. It's Newark's water supply. So the last person fishing on a boat, I think, was Daddy George Bush, not Little Bush. Daddy George. So that was the last person to fish on a boat. And the rumor is he caught like a 7 or 8 pounder. So everyone's got like the hots out for this lake, but can't do it. Supposedly, like I said, supposedly there's snipers. There's literally cameras on the lake.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. But it's
do you guys have like tungsten or lead regulations?
No. Surprised.
I know New Hampshire has
I was going to say a couple
regulations.
states around us too.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never even heard that before.
And
I never even
huge.
thought about that as a thing,
huge.
But it makes sense.
Yeah. I hate it. I think that I get the kayak thing and I hate it, but it's because it's an invasive species. You can like bring some algae in there and screw up Newark, and I don't care. They're filtering the water anyway. Like,
yeah, right? It's gonna end up like Flint, Michigan, where guys are drinking lead out of the water supply.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is, so like last year we had a crazy drought, and like it was like bad, but like you could just see the mounds in the reservoir where it's like the water just like where, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh my God, there's a 10-pound. Like I'm driving by, I almost crashed like 4 or 5 times. I'm driving by, like, that is where he sits, or she, excuse me. That's where she sits right there. I can see it because the water's so low, and I'm not allowed to fish this spot ever.
I'll go nuts.
Ever. But I think my boy just got it where it was like it's like 6 days a year. And it's like 8 to 4. They literally sent me a thing. It's 8 to 4, and then depending on the guard that night. So if it's a dude and he like fishes too, and he's out there fishing with us, he might let us stay until nightfall. But if it's like some young girl who's like, this is her summer job, and she's like 4 o'clock, let's go, then we got to get out. Whatever it is, or, I'm like, it's so weird, bro.
We have I work for a company called Dow Chemical, and they have some Dow power plants, and all their water comes out of these power plants. but I've heard rumors of like guards, like you said, will take fishing poles and go fish on the power plant. And I've heard rumors of like every cast, like anything you want to throw, every cast, like it's just incredible.
They just don't see lures at all for like, and then it's like there's a fishing section. It's so crazy. It's like so
they
you're
like
not
put you in the deep hole in the lake, just
yeah,
just
you're
out
not
of,
even
like,
allowed to just go. You have to stay in like this. So like if you get some type of access and they're like, oh yeah, you can do your thing. Oh my god, I can't even imagine. I can't.
Are there a lot of bodies of water up there, or not? Not really.
What do you consider a lot of bodies of water?
Like even ponds and creeks and like rivers and like, is there a lot of water, or is it kind of?
So where I am right now, I'm going to say like yes and no. I have to drive 30 minutes to get to a good body of water. Some of that is because of traffic. Some of that's because of distance. So like where I live in Jersey, it's like a lot of one lane roads. So like it's not like highways. So it does take me a little bit longer to get to certain spots. But like I think the closest spot where I know there's biggins is a reservoir. And somebody pulled a 22-inch fish out of it 2 days ago. My boy was there. It's funny too because it was like the one day me and Pat didn't talk to each other, and we both went fishing 2 different spots. And he called me. It was like, "Yo, I just saw you posted one on Instagram." And I was like, "Yeah, I caught a little smallie. What are you doing?" "Oh, I just watched this guy pull a 5.5, 22-inch fish out of this other spot we go to." And I was like, "Oh my god!" But
that's amazing.
I mean, like there's a good state park, Harriman State Park. I don't mind saying that. Yeah, Harriman has like there's a 7 lakes drive, and there's like literally 7 lakes on it. So
that's sweet.
Not that big though. There's no big bodies of water. I think the biggest body of water is Lake. Excuse me if I say this wrong. Hopatacan, or whatever you were to say it, and it's the biggest lake in New Jersey. Wow. I've been there once, and I honestly didn't even know it was the biggest lake in New Jersey, and I was bank fishing it. Now I feel stupid.
Dude, that's funny.
This kid caught a 6-pound smallmouth out of it, all on the bank, and I was like, "Oh!" Next day I was up there. He posted on Fish Plane.
Yeah.
Next day I was up.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going.
That's so weird.
And now it's because it's huge.
First time I ever started to realize, like, I'm from Michigan, where like it doesn't matter where you drive. You're going over a pond, or you're going by a pond, or over a little river or creek, or like there's a big lake. Like there's water everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, then I drove through Ohio, and I started realizing, okay, there's not really water everywhere. And this was when I was fishing again. I'm like, oh man, there's not really water everywhere. And then I drove to Tennessee, and I'm like, oh, Alex, like, I don't want to go fish Norris today. Like, can we just go to a smaller lake to fish? He's like, no, we got Norris, we got Douglas, we got Cherokee, and these are like massive, ginormous lakes. Part of the TVA. I'm like, dude, like, you don't have just ponds. You don't have like creeks, like very small creeks, or like massive giant bodies of water. Versus us, like I'm fishing 500-600 acre lakes. Like,
yeah, no, I'd be lost.
I love it.
That's where all the big like state records have come from, though. Is like sub 2,000 acre lakes. Mm-hmm. Like all of them, pretty much all of them have.
Yeah, so, I mean, Michigan has a couple that are connected to the Great Lakes, especially recently. Like you're seeing smallmouth come in, or gobies come in from the Great Lakes, and that's where they're eating them. But other than that, yeah, I mean, a lot of them come from those smaller bodies of water.
Yeah. So, and Ben, if you need to go, let us know, because we don't want to keep you too long.
No, dude, I'm just hanging out. I'm just hanging out.
I have this interest. So I have this buddy that lives in Michigan. No, is it? Yeah, it's Michigan, and he throws a pink like Depths 250 and catches like 5-pound smallmouth with the thing, like consistently.
Is this Scales and Tails?
Yes.
Oh
Adrian,
yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I know.
Okay. Have you messed with that sort of thing?
No. But he's like a swim bait junkie. Like the dude just catches them. He's just one of those dirty fish catching dudes. Like we all know the guys that are just like dirty fish catchers. Like nobody dirties is that way. Just has a fishy way about him.
Okay, Ben, I think I was lying, apparently, according to chat, because a bunch of guys, I drive 2 hours, an hour.
I dropped 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Really? Oh,
I
and then
I
here
can
you
run
go.
down
So here, I don't. Hopefully, it'll show. I think I got it all in the picture. That's Lake Hopatchan. So that's the biggest lake in New Jersey.
And you're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna bang fish right here.
Yeah. So I literally just went to like, I don't even know where I was. I just went to a boat ramp and just like the water was down. Or I just went to, there's like a state park. Went to the state park on it and just started walking. I didn't know that it was that big. And then like I was talking to one of my guys at work and he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go out on the we got a big boat and yeah, we can go on hop at the can and open it up and blah blah blah. And I'm like, open it up? It's that big? And he's like, yeah, this thing's huge. And he shows me a picture. I was like,
Jermaine's like, yeah, I fished at one spot on the bank
Yeah.
one time.
It's like I walked that little thing right there, but I was like, holy crap, this thing is. I'm pretty sure that's where it was. I think there's a state park. I'm gonna look that up too. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. Oh, it's crazy. Now I exactly like I said, and it was funny too because a couple guys dropped their boats in, and I watched all these boats go around the corner, and I never saw them again. I'm like, yo, I've been here for like 2 hours. None of these guys came back. Damn, where'd they go? That must have went the good spot. Yeah, they
Right,
probably
a long, like ran way up lake.
guys started running.
Yeah.
I didn't know
That's
you
funny.
went out like that way before, Jermaine. I didn't know
What's
you've
that?
gone to like I didn't know you've gone to like one of the big lakes before.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know either, so it's okay. We're in the same boat.
When did you find out it was a big lake? Like how long after you fished it?
Months. So I fished it at the end of last year, and then I didn't find out until like I think this year, the beginning of this year. Like my boy was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do like 4th of July or something." Yeah, it's not even 4th of July yet. Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do 4th of July down there. You want to go?" It's one of the biggest lakes in New Jersey. I'm like, "Not, I was there. It wasn't even that big." They were like, "Bro, did you go? Where'd you go? Did you see it look around the corner?" I was like, "No, I was on the bank." And he was like, "Once you go around that corner, bro, it." I was like, "Oh," and then I looked at a map and I was like,
This is the
"Yeah,
Oh, that's amazing,
Yeah.
dude. That's a great story.
yeah." And this
I,
kid literally caught a 5 or 6. I'm pretty huge smallmouth, huge. And I was like, "Yep, tomorrow, bye."
I'll
Let's
tell
go.
you one thing I miss. So I bank fish. Like a little bit about my story. I fished as a kid out of a boat. My grandparents and my aunt had a boat, so we'd fish occasionally just for whatever bit. Well, I got back into fishing at like 17 years old, and I would just bank fish. And when you start to bank fish, you can stand in like one spot, like a 50-yard stretch either way, and fish it for like hours, dude, like
Yeah,
all day, right? Well, like getting in a boat, I don't want to say ruins you, but opens you up to a whole new world of like
it's wild.
accessibility,
Yeah,
right? So like, but when you're bank fishing and you can look at a body of water, like your body of water is only as big as you can cast.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think there's something really cool about that because you're able to really break that place down, probably catch way more fish than any other dude in a boat that rolls up to that place and tries to
Yeah.
fish up. We'll kind of take it to like a small boat perspective on that same kind of concept. My buddy Nathan, he was fishing out of a tin can, like a literal 12-foot John boat with a trolling motor on the back. And he would go fish this lake with me, and consistently, like I go to an area and he would just outfish me in the area.
yeah,
Or like if he's in a spot, he just understands how to break that body of water down a lot more quickly and thoroughly than I can do it. But he has that perspective of being locked to a relatively confined area,
yeah.
right?
Got
I
to
think
make
it gives you different skill sets, makes you a better fisherman in some aspects than the guy that can go run all over a lake.
So you know how I can relate to that right now is I don't have a motor on my kayak, and in my kayak club, there's like I would say 70% is either pedal drive. I might be one of the few guys that doesn't have a pedal drive or a motor.
Okay.
So I'm just straight paddling, and like as of right now, the most frustrating thing I've ever had to deal with in fishing. I'll say it out loud. Like the most, it's so annoying watching these guys just breeze to the other side of the lake. I literally sit there and I'm like, oh, dang it. But in the same
They're tying
breath,
tackle.
yeah, they're literally just, my boy Rich, he hits the button. Oop, he's texting his girl. Yo, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm like, dang.
I
But
think
it kind of like there's to a certain spot where it's going to make me better because I know, like, and it didn't. I mean, not in this particular situation because I didn't catch anything, but I know there's going to come a time and point where I work an area better because they give it the 20 minutes and go. They give. Oh, I threw a 30 overall cast of different baits and they didn't bite anything. I'm out.
yes.
Me, on the other hand, I'm anchored up. I'm casting at that piece of cover with every single bait I have 7 or 8 times, so it's like one day it'll pan out.
I think the
But
biggest thing is like understanding seasonality of fish, right? You want to find high percentage areas or like, well, one, you want to like understand the seasonal movements of a bass, right? So like pick an area where they should be for that season, but also pick an area where fish can be in multiple seasons. So like one thing Nathan really showed me being locked to small areas was he would pick an area that has a lot of different things. So like especially from like winter through like
like
midsummer, you can really start to say, okay, like I look at this area with my little, John boat with a little, 55 thrust or whatever, 35. I think at a 35-pound thrust trolling motor, I can only cover like a 300-yard stretch. Well, there's a point. Here's a little small bay. Here's like some grass out in the middle of the bay. Here's some, weeds. Like find these versatile areas where you can really pick it apart for different seasons or different patterns of what the fish might be in through that day.
That's actually a very good idea.
But like understanding, like finding these versatile areas and finding areas where fish can be in like small spots that fish really, really big. Then you can pick that place apart instead of like trying to say, okay, I need to fish this one point, and then I got to drive or paddle like a quarter mile or half mile away to go fish this other area. That's where he is the best. He's so good. He taught me so much out of that stupid John boat. I wish I could beat his head in sometimes. But he's so good.
And I love fishing.
Sorry, I'm writing that down.
That's so much fun.
Brandon, how do you get into the sport, man?
Just dad took me fishing a few times and just went downhill from there and, just catching lots of fish. Now I just fish mostly.
Like the bait world. Like you're a big bait dude, but you're also like very, like you really enjoy the artistry of bait and like understanding how baits move through the water. How'd you get into that?
They didn't make all the stuff that I wanted out there. It was just like these little tweaks. I'm like, I really want this bait to do this little thing. So I'm like, I want to try to make that. And, took me a few years.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Brandon.
You froze, buddy.
Come back, buddy.
Okay, come back.
Got you.
Okay, good.
It just took you a few years.
Yeah, it just took me a few years to get kind of good at it. I mean, I'm still pretty horrible at it, but I'm working my way up there. I'll get there eventually. I'll make my baits look pretty. Yeah, and now I sold all my spinning. I sold all my spinning stuff. Gave away the rest of my baits that are for
break your heart with that.
And this is pretty much all I fished back here.
Oh, so you know what? I will say I've committed. Truly, Brandon, you're gonna hate me for this. I'm gonna get one. You know what I'm gonna say too. I'm gonna do it.
I know exactly.
I'm gonna get a BFS.
Are you?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get one.
Why?
Okay, so you know what? I might not get one. After this conversation we had earlier, I might not get one. You know why I wanted one? It was for the money badger.
Don't get one. Don't get one. See, here's my argument against BFS. Okay, so like I think it's very unique to have the ability to throw these baits on bait casting setup.
And I casted one in my last tournament. My guy had one.
But is it useful? Like, can you not throw it on a spinning rod?
Yes.
So you know what? I'm gonna be that guy. I just like how a bait caster feels better.
It does, but sensitivity isn't there, man. Like
it's not.
The biggest argument for me on a spinning rod, I will throw if I can throw something on a spinning setup, I will throw it on a spinning setup, especially if it gives me like I'm all about hook to land percentage and bait action. So like hook to land, the drag on a spinning rod is infinitely better than any bait caster you can find. And I'm sure some guy's going to be like, oh, there's this Japanese bait caster that has incredible drags. Most bait spinning rods have a better drag system than a bait caster.
Mm-hmm.
More sensitive, and what it lets me do is fish lighter line.
That's
So
pretty
lighter
cool.
line lets the bait have a lot more action.
That's actually pretty funny, dude.
That's actually a good one. But yeah, I've just never understood BFS. Like, I know guys that love it.
Have a good night, Bob.
You scared him off. You scared him off. Look at that.
You guys are gonna make now you guys are gonna make me think twice about it. I don't know. I was thinking about it just because the wacky rig. I was like, "Ooh, I can throw that on a bait caster. That's kind of nice." And then
the wacky rig. No.
Brendan's like, "Oh my god, Brendan."
I throw a 10-inch Senko on a wacky rig. That's my go-to wacky rig.
I'm going. I'm literally like, I'm ready to go all finesse.
Oh my goodness! So you mean I made that wooden wake
so
bait
you know
for
what'll
you,
change your perception on all that, Brendan?
and you're not gonna fish it?
Go pay to get into 2 tournaments, and go get skunked in both of them.
I know, but you need to learn how to use those big baits because up north, almost no one's using them. I'm pretty sure of that. I know some guys up there that throw them and have crazy success. Like Pasang, the guy that owns the Sherpa swim bait dude. That dude catches tanks and catches checks in tournaments. The dude he's a master at making baits and also like catching big fish.
My struggle is the windows that come with fishing big bait. So you go. Like there are certain times of day where like fish become more aggressive and they'll follow and eat bait better, right? So like you'll see, and you might have that window where you can get 3 bites on a big bait, but like in that window with a half-ounce finesse jig, I can catch 10 fish that, like for me, it's all about like, I just want to maximize my number of bites. You look at Ben Milliken, the best, like I'm not saying he's the best with big baits, but one of the best at understanding when to use it as a tool. He is so good at knowing to say, okay, now I need to put this big bait to work, and now I need to pick up the Carolina rig, or I need to pick up the drop shot.
He's really good at that, yeah.
He knows when to put it down, and that's the curse with big baits is you don't know when
that's
to
the
put
hard
them down.
part, right? Like you look at some of the best with big bait, like Zaldane, and like they just get burned by it. And I don't think they get burned because they're in a wrong area. It's like, okay, today didn't set up perfect for you. Like throw your Carolina rig for a half hour and then a specific bite window, throw that big bait. And like you can predict bite windows. Like if you start to look into the world of big baits, which I'm sure Brendan you know, but like there's times of day when you should have that big bait or high percentage bait in your hand.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not like you can catch like 50 fish in a day with a big bait. Like, I mean, it's those smaller baits, the big baits, I guess it's like a 7 or 6 inch like paddle tail or 7 or 6 inch glide bait or an 8-inch glide bait. Like those smaller big baits, like those will allow you to catch a lot of fish and good quality fish too.
Regular size baits.
Yeah, 6 inches is like kind of like a normal size bait.
He's like, that's an Ed rig for a big bait guy.
Yeah. He's like, no, never 6 inches.
But that's funny. You're very true. Plus, there's something super addictive to like getting the interaction from fish and the feedback from fish and like seeing how they move. And like for me, I'm the worst. I threw like what I consider a big bait. It's a Savage Gear 185, so it's like a 6.5 inch glide, 7-inch glide.
Yeah.
And like getting fish to interact with that thing or the feedback on that bait.
Yeah.
So
and guess what I didn't do is put it down, dude. I didn't put it down the rest of the day because I had 2 follows on it.
So I got a follow the other day. Like I'm in a monthly tournament, and I almost lost my mind. Like this was like literally like a 19-inch smallmouth. Like I'm like on a shallow flat, like 3-4 feet of water, and what was it? Oh, I'm burning a spinnerbait, and I just watched him like, and I'm just like. Please do it. And I got into my boat and he just peeled off. And I'm like, oh, like I almost threw up. I don't understand how people are like, oh, I enjoy that. I'm like, no.
You're learning things about the fish too.
Yeah.
I think I have the footage, but I know it's not. I know you can't see it.
And another thing with baits, like especially after you like call in a fish or something like that, is people stay in that area and they just cast and cast and cast. that is the worst thing you could probably do,
Yeah.
because you're just
Well, you
teaching that
already-
fish, you know?
And what's your opinion on this, right? You've already like seen that fish. He's already interacted with your bait,
Yeah.
and
said
he's already
no.
recognized. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's already
Said
recognized
no.
that it's not the right thing.
It's not.
Yeah.
So my instant reaction in that situation, so I'm in my kayak, I was casting this way. I see the fish trailing, and then he peeled off and went back that way. I put the spinnerbait down and grabbed the wacky rig and tried to cast like where he was going to try to just get his attention.
Did you
And then
catch it?
after that, I threw the spinnerbait around and was like, okay, I figured out the speed that they're kind of like, I'm burning it on a shallow flat, but like I wasn't really like, I just kept telling I knew in my head, I was like, he's not coming back from it. Wherever he came back, he's not coming back from it.
But you can learn so much about that fish's movement and action and about these other fish, and then apply that same thing with the spinnerbait.
Mhm.
First time I ever saw, like really saw in a setting,
I never thought
fish follow was with a hair jig. Okay, so like a hair jig, which I'm talking like not a big hair jig, but like a 332nd ounce marabou jig. We were
So
fishing a
here.
tournament. Yeah, Jason Emery. We were
Mhm.
fishing a tournament on the Great Lakes, and what you do is you make a long cast in clean water with this hair jig, and just like a swim bait, steady cadence. Well, these
Okay.
fish would follow that bait when they get close to the boat. If you change cadence, they wouldn't eat it. When they turn away, well, to your point, Jermaine, you could take that bait and follow that fish around, and eventually you'd like make the right cast and have the right angle for that fish. And he would eat it. It was
Really?
crazy.
Man.
You think it's
It
an
was-
angle too?
I think it's angle. I think
Oh,
a
it is.
huge part
Angle.
of it is angle.
I
Not even on
didn't
cover.
mark
Right?
my area. I don't have like electronics like that, but I've been fishing that same lake since I was like 9 years old. I know exactly where I was.
Yeah, but it's not even like it doesn't have to be related to a piece of cover angle, but it has to be related to the way that fish is set up and like getting the bait. So we fish really clear bodies of water, right? So like if you can see a fish swimming in the water, like getting the right angle to get that bait to come across his face a certain way can get that fish to bite. And I've seen them react to baits differently. Like if you come up from behind a fish, like if a fish is angled towards you and you come from behind that fish and bring that bait out, almost never will they eat.
From behind it.
If you cast behind that fish and you bring it up from his tail, up his body, almost never will they eat. But if you can angle that bait so it's like coming at like a 45 or like perpendicular to that fish, you can get them to start to turn on it, and then they'll get a chance to follow it and come up and get that bait. But if it comes up behind them, I think it just spooks them. It weirds them out. They can see the line. Like they're really in tune to more than that bait coming in front of their face.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very interesting, dude. Like, and you can see it more. I think it goes back to Brennan's point, like about the big bait thing. You can understand how these fish start to like see bait and see how it moves through the water. For us, clear water, like it's a small bait thing, but like you can see how they interact with that thing when it comes across in certain ways. Very interesting.
I was fishing docks with this guy right here. This is like my dock glide bait. Glide's like 4 feet out to each side.
What bait?
And
How big is that bait?
11 inches. I think it's like almost 10 ounces. It's a pretty chunky bait, but I mean, it's pretty sweet.
Throwing rocks in the water, catching fish.
No, you can actually make it really silent. Like you do like a kind of an underhand cast with it, and you can make it slide in there really silent. But I was fishing floating docks with this, and that's what I kind of got that bait for, is fishing floating docks with it. You just let it sit there, and I got it to weighted right so it just barely suspends at like 80-degree water. And I could just work that thing super slow next to the dock. And I have another rod rigged up with a twitching glide bait, like a trick shad. And I just, after I see one or a couple come out with this one, I reel it in slowly to the boat, and then I jerk it really fast and get that bait in the boat. Then I throw out the trick shad out there, and I work that thing crazy fast. And usually I can actually get those fish to bite because I'm in dirty water. So like I'm in dirty water, so it's kind of like pretty easy to get the fish, to not see you.
Yeah.
It's fun though.
That's
It
nice.
is so much fun.
Wow, dude. I think there's so much to learn from both. Like, I think you go either end of the spectrum, really big bait or really small bait. Like, what's very interesting to me is like medium-sized bait, so like a medium jig or like a medium anything, a 4-inch Senko. Like, a fish will follow that bait, but very rarely can you cast back in there if they follow it and not. Unless top water.
I think you got to change. Yeah.
They'll miss a top water and you can flip a Senko in and catch that fish. But like very rarely on a standard
Top water, they
size
hit it
bait.
again, especially a frog.
Yes. Yes, dude.
And now, touching on that, I just think that it's the most natural present. That and like a worm are like the two of the most natural presentations we can give them.
Yeah.
And that's why I think biggins eat a frog.
Yeah, it's easy, right? Like it's so obscure. Like it's so obscure for that to be a fake thing.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
Like
just, that's it. That's it.
you don't have your line. I mean, I say this: you don't really have your line present. Your line's not coming in front of their face.
Yeah.
So like all they have is looking up. It's the silhouette. Top water's like the best way, or like super big or super natural, right? Like that just looks natural in their environment.
Yeah.
Like what is a 4-inch Senko representing? All the other 4-inch Senkos coming through the water, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
But
it's very interesting.
Brendan, what are your thoughts on this, right? So like if you're let's say your fish were Jermaine and I fish, right? In a bait fish is 4 to 5 inches on a normal size, like a bluegill or a panfish. Do you think there's value in fishing like a 4 to 5 inch glide bait, or is it better to fish a bigger glide, or like?
I would try to match the hatch, but at the same time, there's always that group of fish that, and I've seen this specifically, bass like cannibals. The bass are cannibals, they eat, but sometimes there's certain populations of bass that mainly feed on other bass, and those bass are actually really aggressive for some reason. So sometimes throwing a bass imitating bait is, if there's normal sized bass, there's always going to be those little fry bass most of the time throughout the year. And you can catch those fish on bass imitating big baits. So, I mean, I'm obviously going to try to match the hatch and the size. Oh my goodness.
Brendan's got a whole wall of mounted fish.
I know. These are all my catches back here from New Zealand and all sorts of places.
I love it.
Brendan's baits are bigger than Debo's dinks.
I know. I've got a 14-inch one up there that I love fishing.
That's
crazy.
14 inches.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I think there's value in matching the hatch and going to that smaller presentation, especially up north where you guys are, because there's clear water. You need to use lighter line. These big baits you can't roll with 17 or 20 pound line. Sometimes you need to bump it up to 25-pound line, and that line is easier to see in that clear water. So I think there's value in, it's good to be all well rounded, especially where you live with the clear water. But I've never fished it, so I don't really have too much.
What's really interesting to me is I was always like, big baits, you have to throw bigger lines. So Caleb Bell, Bass Quest, fishes Chickamauga. He's like the best bait tinkerer, like weird thinks out of the box on things. But when he throws those big baits, and I think it's because he fishes chick, which is one of the most heavily pressured fisheries in the country. Dude, he's like looking for ways to downsize line, or looking for ways to downsize the hooks on his bait, or change the certain aspects of his presentation. It's very interesting the way that his mind works. And so when he came up here, he's like, yeah, let's go through glide baits for a day. So I picked up my, Dobbins, I think it was a 795 or something. And I had 20 pound, or I had 65 pound braid tied to 20 pound leader. He pulls out this like 7.6 heavy cranking rod with 17 pound test fluoro, picks up a 10, what is it? River to Sea S Waver 200. It's like an 8-inch bait or 10-inch bait or something. Yeah. He throws it out with 17 pound test fluoro. And the amount of follows that he got that I just wasn't getting. Like, it's very interesting, even on these super clear fisheries, like small tweaks that you can do and things you can. It's just very weird. It's crazy. Yeah. Amazing.
I change out all the hooks. I mean, this bait right here came with 2/0 hooks. Those are size 1 hooks on there.
Oh, dang, dude.
They're Gamakatsu bronze hooks, and the color of your hook matters too. So I usually paint my hooks.
That's my attention.
You like red hooks?
You like black painted hooks, right?
No, I don't like black painted hooks unless the belly of the bait is black.
Okay.
Because I want it to look like more like a fish, and that white on there or that bronze is going to imitate that color. And now since I'm using this on docks, they're not seeing the belly most of the time, so I don't really care. I mean, it's bronze color, so it doesn't have any flash. They're small, so it just made sense for me to go with the smaller hooks. And look, I mean, you can see how light wire that is. I mean, that's like a normal crankbait size.
Yeah,
right there. I mean, like it's light, but that's what I use. That's what I have the most success on.
It looks so natural, right? Like you give that bait the best opportunity to have the desired action or designed action of the bait. And smaller hooks means less presence in the water.
Yep, less drag,
dude.
Wider glide, and then also those hooks are going to suck up closer to the bait whenever you glide it out. So I mean, it's perfect.
I think one of the biggest mistakes as a new angler is we always try to go with the biggest hook we possibly can, instead of thinking opposite, right? Like this could be Senko, could be Carolina rig, could be whatever, XYZ, swim baits, in particular, paddle tail swim baits. Guys will take a 3.5-inch paddle tail swim bait and put a 4-aught hook in it, and it comes like to the back of where the body's supposed to have, kick. Well, it has such an impact on the overall action of the bait.
Yeah.
Milliken talked about it when he was fishing Toledo Bend, right? He was fishing a 3-aught hook in that hog waller, which is like a 6-aught bait, because it allowed his bait to have more natural action in the water. But I think it's just natural as fishermen. Like, I want to give that fish the most opportunity to get my hook, as opposed to that fish is going to probably eat my bait head first, and I want the bait to have the best action it could possibly have.
Exactly.
Dude, people are just giving it to you, Brendan.
I mean, I get some hate
you
for
fish
it, but
musky lures as your buzz baits.
I want that, Kyle. I want to get the Bill Dance one, but I haven't found one yet. I need to get one of those.
Oh, JP's got one.
Oh, man. Jermaine, do you have any small bait questions? We need to equal this out a little bit here.
Well, yeah. How do you feel about the Mini Max?
I'm not throwing it.
No?
No, but I believe there's this. I talked to Dan Miguel, the owner of Great Lakes Finesse. I am a huge believer and fan of this movement to go to smaller profile baits.
That's what I'm at right now.
Their snack craw, their flat cat, like these smaller profile, smaller body baits. Like it's not just a clean water thing either.
Yeah.
Like these fish, it looks more natural in their environment. So like where everyone's going bigger, or everyone's fishing the same, like you go smaller, you have the same opportunity to catch bigger fish.
Yeah.
Like small baits doesn't mean big. Small baits doesn't mean small fish.
Yeah. That's what I'm learning.
Here it does.
No, it doesn't.
No, I'm convinced, dude. I'm convinced you could throw like tiny baits and catch giants. Like
I'm gonna make you.
You need to throw it in front of their face, though. That's the issue. We have dirty water. You need to throw it right in front of their face. So I mean, the bigger baits. I mean, it definitely changes. Okay. You need to have like loud colors, lots of movement going on.
I have a theory or question. Okay, small body baits in what we consider small body baits in what we consider dirty water.
Okay.
Do you believe these fish are so in tune with their environment, like even in dirty water, they recognize that things are there? Yes. Right, like in clean water, like a bass will know immediately if something hits the water, right? Not only because they can see it, but just because of the environment. But like dirty water, they have to be the same in tune with that environment, right? Like it's all relative.
They're used to it.
Yeah, I'm sure they're in tune with it. I mean, very in tune with it because that's where they live in. I mean, that's like how they have to survive. But I mean, at the same time, you want to give the fish the best chance possible to find that bait easily, because those big fish are going to set up on those areas, the best areas on the lake. So you want to give them the best presentation that's going to allow them to find it very easily, because they're looking for that dumb meal a lot of the time.
That makes sense.
You know,
do you search for cleaner water? Like, do you go out to your lake and say, okay, I'm looking for cleaner water areas, or I'm looking for a certain clarity, or like
there's 2 ponds in his backyard. So
no, come on, whatever. Oh my goodness. No, I fish a lot of lakes.
The water and it just goes.
Grab him.
He's like that. There was a kid a couple years ago, the fish whisperer, Kyle something or other, and he had a pond. Yeah. You could like touch the water and fish would come up and you would just grab it.
Goodness, no, I didn't know that.
That's where Sixth Sense shot a lot of their original videos. A lot of their baits, a lot of their videos, like they don't have hooks on them because they go to Kyle's pond and they could throw them in there and their fish would come up and eat them. I'm not joking. Like, this is not a joke, and this isn't a knock on Sixth Sense, but like it makes great footage when a fish comes up and crushes the lure. Well, it was Kyle's pond. That's
crazy.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't want to search for clear water because a lot of the time, the fish shut down in clear water down here. So if we get more than like 4 or 5 feet of visibility, they kind of just start shutting down. And the same with also low water too, because they
It's
don't
like
like
the
low
other way
water
around
here.
up here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
When that clarity like goes away. It's like it's harder to catch them.
For sure.
Like it's like stupid. Like this one lake had an algae bloom, and it was like, yeah, I'm just gonna stop going here. After I went there like 3 times, I caught like one fish. I was like, dang, I'm just gonna stop going here. Waited like 2-3 weeks, and it cleared up, and I went back and smashed them.
Clarity's so big for us.
You would have thought those fish didn't eat for like ever.
Yeah, because I mean they rely on the site a lot of the time, right? Smallmouth especially.
Well, it's just so relative. Like I'm a big believer that it's very relative, and a lot of these fish don't necessarily move as far as we think.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm also a believer that, especially with live scope forward facing, like fish will travel longer distances. But yeah, very interesting that clarity plays such a big role.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting. And Tim, it's not just one pond. I have like 10 ponds and then a few lakes that I fish. I'm not just fishing little private ponds. Come on.
Not just the private ponds.
Not just the private.
I say that as if I'm not fishing like if I don't search out lakes that don't get the same like as little pressure as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I like fishing the small lakes though, like sub 200 acres. Like they're fun, you know?
Yeah, because you can go and have fun and like not have to spend, 10 days trying to figure out the exact bait they need.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to worry about a ton of jet skiers a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but they're still going to have jet ski people, but, you're always going to have that on the
I don't really have. There's only a few lakes around me that are like pleasure boater lakes. It's like Greenwood Lake. Excuse me. That's the first one. I'm good.
Let us know if you ever need to go. I probably should get off here soon.
Yeah, we'll give it like 5 more minutes and then I'll hop off here because
all right.
I got a couple more things done tonight. But
okay.
Any final questions? Get them in there.
Yeah, I'd love to see a couple questions come through the chat. We've answered.
Did you get any cold sheds? You got any cold sheds coming? I think I caught like 2 colors left on discount tackle. I think it was this morning.
I just don't throw a big bait enough.
So I just that time was like, I'm gonna try
it. Come down here. I'll show you some good places to throw.
I'm
and I'll teach you how.
Yeah,
we'll get you an 8-pounder.
Sure. Dude,
we'll get you
I'll tell you a crazy story real quick. So, my experience with bigger baits was limited at the time. Okay, and I'm still not good with big baits, but I've thrown them a little bit. So I was down at Chickamauga filming for what was at the time the FLW tour. Okay. Caleb Bell took me out and we went to Nickajack, and we pulled into this cut. And he's like, "Okay, here's a Shine Glide 185. It was a gizzard shad color." He's like, "Okay, you're just gonna throw it. This is how you're gonna work it." My first fish I ever caught on the 185 was a 4-pound smallmouth, which on Nickajack is like a big smallmouth. He's like, figures you would catch that. Well, then like 20 minutes later, we're like post spawn. You can just barely see what looks like the top of the stump in the water. Like it's a couple foot underwater. He's like, "You see that stump? Take that glide bait and twitch it right by it." And so I do. End up catching like a 6.5-pound largemouth. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." Right? Well, the next day I have to go film at the Chickamauga takeoff. And he's like, "You should take this rod and just go fish this area by the boat launch, like by Dayton boat ramp." And I don't want to deal with taking a boat or taking a rod, whatever. Like, I don't want to deal with it. His buddy Brian Speller the night before goes, "Dude, you have to go and take this rod and go fish this one culvert that comes out. Like, you have to do it. Just make 20 casts and whatever." So I go film, and I'm like, dang it. Like, I got this rod in my truck. I told him I would do it. So I go fish the culvert for a couple casts, and I go fish this other area, and I'm like, okay, I'm about done here. And then I see this one stick up in the water, and I take my glide bait, and I glide it. It comes right by the stick up, and all of a sudden I see this big fish roll, like, comes over my bait, eats it. I'm fighting this thing to the bank. Now, mind you, the FLW, like, this is the boat launch where they just launched all these boats. I get this fish to the bank, and I pull it up on the bank, and I'm like, "Oh my God, giant fish, giant fish." I'm like, this has to be like a 7-pounder.
Oh man!
Some guys see me on the shore, and they're like, oh my God, that's a giant fish. This guy comes over in a golf cart, picks me up. I had it all on GoPro, but I had it on like looping mode. Comes, picks me up. We go weigh this thing at Dayton Boat Ramp on the FLW Tour stage, went 9 pounds, 5 ounces. This is like my third fish ever on a glide bait.
No way.
It was dumbest.
That's crazy.
And then I went up north and I caught a couple other big fish on a glide, and I haven't thrown it since.
Wow.
But it's just wild. Like I almost didn't even do it, dude. I almost didn't take the rod. It was just amazing.
That's insane, man.
I think we got a few.
Matt is right there. You need a Tiny Clash. 100%.
What's the deal with it? What's the deal with the Tiny Clash?
The Tiny Clash and the Clash 9. They have the modular, you can pop out lips and change out lips. I think they have like 4 or 5 different lips for the Tiny Clash. They also have different tails. Each one in combination with each other does different things. I think there's like 20-something things you can do with each bait to give it different actions. Dude, it is insane how many things you can do with these baits. My favorite is the Clash 9 at the moment. I recently got the Ghost, and I've been trying to fish that one and mess around with that one, which is even crazier because it has all these like crazy joints and configurations. But the Tiny Clash, it is such a good bait, especially for smallmouth. I bet you if you get a pink one, they would tear that thing up.
Do you have to like know the different actions? Like, do you just kind of stick with a couple, or like you change it up?
I like to mess around. Like the first like couple of weeks I had it, I was just like, I actually got it from Matt. He sold me one of his, but he you basically just mess around, like you play with it. You know, it's just like you mess around. And you're like, hey, all right, let's see what happens when I put the lip in this way. All right, let's switch it around and put it in backwards. All right, let's see what I do with this tail. Can I put a rubber band in the joint and see what that does to the action? Change the hooks out. All right, let's stick a weight on here. All right, let's get this other lip and all that. And you could do crazy stuff.
Ned rig. Yeah, just let me toss this Ned rig bait on here. Okay, it has a little bit different wiggle than this Ned rig bait.
Okay, you can get it down to 14 feet. Get it down to 14 feet, or you can dead walk it, or you can fish it top water, or you can crank it down to 3 feet, or you can crank it down to 10 feet, or you can glide it, or you can twitch it like a jerk bait. It is one of the most versatile baits out there.
There's a good one.
It's insane.
Jason,
I don't know about buy. You can donate it to me. I'm broke.
Yeah, I would have donated. No, I did sell my boat. I sold it
300
2 weeks
finance.
ago. yeah. No, I did sell it about 2 weeks ago, and I bought a Champion that I'm rebuilding. So like the Champion I got, could have fished out of it. Like it was fine, but I'm like redoing all the flooring, like just making it my own, which is what I wanted in a boat. Like I got a really good deal, and it's an old boat, but yeah, it's awesome.
Ever use any mule fishing stuff? They make really, really small stuff. Aggressively average anglers, Burley Boys. I don't know if you watch them.
Yep.
They make some really, really small things. I'm trying to just breeze through the questions so we can get out of here.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I don't use rats or go profiles. I use a Savage Gear 185. It's like the perfect profile and like does what I want it to do.
Nice.
Oh, Tennessee Bassmaster. I am using EVA. So I pulled, dude, that's the part I'm at right now. So I literally ripped up all the carpet last night, took off all the lids of the boxes. Now I have to scrape it all, which I'm really not excited about.
You can use a sander for that.
I could, yeah, I should.
Or a grinder or something.
Yeah. So it's a 184. So it's 18'4". So it's a little bit smaller, but dude, what's wild about this boat? The guy put a deck extension in it. It's a 92. The guy like built out the extension on the front because normally it ends like halfway up with the older boat. I'm convinced that the front deck on this Champion is as long or longer than my Phoenix, but there's no back deck. Like the back deck is so small and there's no storage. So I'm building it's really cool.
That's crazy.
I don't even want to post this question because it will need another live.
That's sad.
Jason, he goes, this is the guy you need to ask about Ned rigs, but we'd end up going into a whole nother.
I fish Ned rigs, but I just fish it so I can catch them. Like, I don't enjoy fishing a Ned rig. I fish it like a drop shot, right? It's a target tool for me. Like when I know they're there, and I'm like, I just need them to bite something. But I don't know if you've played with it any. Beast Coast OW Sniper Finesse Jig.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll throw that the same exact place I'll fish a Ned rig normally, but I believe it's just got a little bit different profile and like a bigger profile that draws fish, but they'll still eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go into one more story and then we'll hop off here. So a couple weeks ago, I was fishing a jig, and normally on this lake, fish eat jigs really well. Full size, well, I say full size, but like a little Magnum, so like a pretty decent size
One of
jig.
my favorite jigs.
Phenomenal, right? Well, I would notice them like, and I could see them visually come off a dock and like nose down on my jig, and then they'd swim off. First flip of the ODP Sniper, caught a fish. Next, like then they just the way they'd react to that OW Sniper is totally different than they'd react to a normal jig. More similar to a Ned rig, but I believe because it's got that bigger profile, they eat it a lot better.
So does the OW Sniper, does it come with a weed guard? That's the thing that blows my mind.
No.
It's the no weed guard.
Okay, that's what you think, right? And because it's a football head, but it comes through grass really, really clean. And I think it's because of the 90-degree line tie. Comes through grass really well. Don't flip it into wood. Whatever you do, hear God. Don't flip it into wood.
Don't flip it into wood.
The other one is Ike Mini Flip. Missile Baits Ike Mini Flip.
Yeah.
You can get the half-ounce version. It's like tiny. That's a phenomenal jig. It's tiny, though.
I don't mind.
Travis designed,
I
right?
love
The OW Sniper?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And I really started, like, I fished it a little bit before last fall. Last fall, it was like, dude, lights out. Anywhere I wanted to take that jig, like anywhere they'd normally eat a regular jig or a Ned rig, that's the deal.
I think he might have lost it, actually. That's what I was throwing the other day, yeah.
So they're coming out with something that will make it a lot cheaper, but still relatively the same profile. Just keep an eye out. Can't say too much more than that.
Beast Coast is amazing.
Nice.
I have a sticker on my desk at work, and I just put one on my kayak. So
they're phenomenal. It's a great company. They make really,
some good
really
baits.
good product.
Their jigs are amazing.
Very.
Wow.
So,
all right. I think that'll wrap it up, though.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
it was
you,
a lot
guys.
of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yes. Yeah, great conversation. Great knowledge.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting us steer your night for us. And also, all of his social links are in the description below, so you guys can go check him out there. Subscribe to all his YouTube channels and, all his socials down there. So
all that good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ben. And thank you, everyone who watched.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
We'll catch you guys next week. I think we might have Travis Manson on. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all right. Thank you guys, and have a good one.
See you next week.